Good morning,
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Steve Edwards.
And I'm Christina Ferrari.
And, yeah, you think you've heard enough about the debate? Before you form any opinions, not about the debate last night itself, but about coverage of the debate and all the debates about the debate, we have something coming up in a few minutes here on the program where we are going to discuss the...
We're going to debate.
Well, that's every day, but this is something different today. We're going to talk about the debate and analyze how the candidates did according to their vocal spoken performance. This is somewhat different from most of the interpretations and the analyses that you have heard about the debate. Now, all right, let us welcome to the program right now the renowned speech pathologist.
Therapist.
Come on in. Dr. Morton Cooper is with us, Ph.D. in speech pathology. He is a man who has been kind of a radical, a rebel in his field. I think he's changed the way a lot of people look at the process of speech. The debates, we want to get right into that. The debates last night. We want the Cooper ear view, not the eye view of what happened last night. Any general comment before we look at some of the candidates?
The most trusted voice in America is Ronald Reagan, and he's replaced Walter Cronkite. He still remains the same type of person the American public likes, respects, and accepts.
Right, but he's very monotone in the way he speaks. He doesn't have any inflections in it that are either high or low or excitable. He's just very... It's just
very
nice,
easy. It's a mellow.
Yes.
He has a very simple, direct means of talking with you. And he's very listenable, and he has the sound of success. It's the magic of voice. He doesn't use his voice as well as it was 4 years ago or 8 years ago. It's going down a little into the lower throat, and he's committing a little voice suicide. We accept that as a mellow voice and as a very appealing sound, but there's a raspiness to what he's doing. But we still accept that and love the voice that he presents. It's very listenable, and as I say, it's a sound of magic to us.
Your voice sounds like FM radio.
It's so melodious.
I used to talk like this. This is the way I talk.
You used to talk like this?
Yes, I did.
Marty,
I talked from Brooklyn. Yes, I talk like that. And then I went all the way down to Henry Kissinger, and I lost my voice. And I got into the field because I couldn't find my voice. 12 MDs told me in different ways I'm dying, and I didn't know what it was. So finally, I got into the field. I learned what it was about, and I wrote a book.
Where are you talking from, then?
All the way down here.
No, when you speak regularly.
When I speak regularly, it's around here, the mask.
Here?
Right.
See, I always thought you were supposed to speak
that's
from your
the support
diaphragm.
that you are supporting from the diaphragm. And that's what all good speakers do. They support from the midsection, and they present the voice up here. That's why we love such great voices as Greg Peck, Anne Bancroft, Diane Carroll. All these great sounds appeal to us because they know how to use voice.
And they come through their face mask. Let's get specific about the debates last night. Let's pick it up with President Reagan. We'll listen to him, and then we'll talk about...
Yes, I have so many things there to respond to. I'm going to pick out something you said earlier. You've been all over the country repeating something that I will admit the press has also been repeating. That I believe that nuclear missiles could be fired and then called back. I never ever conceived of such a thing. I never said any such thing. In a discussion of our strategic arms negotiations, I said that submarines carrying missiles and airplanes carrying missiles were more conventional type weapons, not as destabilizing as the land-based missiles, and that they were...
Okay, now without getting into the issue of one Ronald Reagan in that speech in May of 1982 in the press conference, when he used the phrase weapons and instruments, whether he meant submarines and ships or if he meant missiles.
Right, aside from the content.
Aside from the content,
right.
the
voice is right on the mark. He's right, the old Ronald Reagan. It's great. It's the sound of the man that has the most respected voice in this country. He has replaced Walter Cronkite as the most trusted voice in America. That voice was right on the mark. He was spontaneous. He was right to us, direct.
Now, what is wrong with Mondale's voice? I mean, his voice, even before this was even brought out, is irritating to my ear.
Yes, well, he had...
she jumps right in.
No.
Go right to it.
Excuse me, no, but I know, but that's very important because as he was speaking, I said...
He turned off a great number of Americans, and he had a wimpy kind of sound. He had a nasal voice.
That's it.
And what he did is he was talking to the back of the audience rather than one-to-one, as Ronald Reagan does. Ronald Reagan is a pro. He's experienced in talking into a microphone. He knows how to talk the way I'm talking, and he doesn't shout. Mondale was shouting. He's changed his style tremendously. He's very presentable at this particular point, and he's listenable. But he's not as listenable as Ronald Reagan.
But you bring up a good point, and there is a way to speak on the stump.
That's right.
We're trying to rouse the troops and get everybody to be very emotional, and there is a difference in that one-to-one communication. And Ronald Reagan sounds like one of the great old radio announcers.
Yes,
Indeed,
that's what he's doing. He doesn't use a stump voice.
Mhm.
Ferraro uses a stump voice, and she goes very high, and she turns off a lot of people with that sound. Mondale uses a stump voice and turns off a lot of people because he shouts at them. He doesn't use a microphone. It's like talking into a telephone. Have you ever talked into a telephone? Somebody, yeah, they talk like that. Well, they could drive you crazy.
Yeah.
When most people get excited, why is it that they, like, especially I do, when I get excited, my voice goes up 3 or 4 octaves. And I notice that with most people.
Because
what causes
tension,
that?
pressure, stress, all of those things enter into it. But a pro keeps the voice stable.
All right,
Keeps it
I tell
easy.
you what, I don't want to get off track here. Let's pick up on Walter Mondale
Mondale.
and see what he is saying here.
Because the only type of agreements to reach with the Soviet Union are the types that are specifically defined so we know exactly what they must do, subject to full verification, which means we know every day whether they're living up to it, and follow-ups wherever we find suggestions that they're violating it, and the strongest possible terms. I have no illusions about the Soviet Union leadership or the nature of that state. They are a tough and a ruthless adversary, and we must be prepared to meet that challenge, and I would.
See, there you hear a rich, full voice, which is not what we've been hearing through most of the campaign.
And when he began the debate, he was a rich baritone. At the beginning of that debate, his real voice came out. I hope I had something to do with it because they got in touch with me about 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, and they asked me to tell them what's wrong with his voice, and I did. Bring the pitch range down, talk conversationally, and that's what he's been doing. And it's a marvel in what he does with his voice. He sounds much more listenable, and we respect him for the sound that he's presenting.
It's also interesting to watch him battle the pronunciation of the word nuclear.
Well, he has trouble with that, but Carter did too.
They both said nuclear,
Right.
and you'll see sometimes in a speech, Mr. Mondale will say nuclear early in the speech, and then when he's kind of relaxed and flying and not thinking specifically about words, he comes out nuclear again. A couple of quick observations before we go. It has often been repeated that in the 1960 debate, which will always be the most famous presidential debate since Lincoln and Douglas, that if you listened to Kennedy and Nixon in the first debate, we forget there were a series of debates, but the first one was the one that counted. In the first debate, if you listened, Richard Nixon was a clear-cut winner. What's at play there?
It's a play on sound. Recently, in the first debate, when Mondale debated Reagan, Reagan came out winning on the air, on audio, but not in visual. Because in visual, you could see some fumbling, some stammering, hesitation, and so forth. But on the air, audio, you didn't hear that, per se. You heard a very mellow, laid-back kind of presentation. So you have different presentations. You have one on audio and one on visual. And when they come together, you have a winner. If you have the audio and the visual, you have a performance, and that's what this is.
I also found, because in the Ferraro-Bush debate, I heard half of it on the radio driving home. I saw the other half when I got home. And I thought that, and please, all partisanship aside here in this discussion, there is no partisanship.
There is none on my part either.
Ferraro was more effective when you saw her than when you just heard her.
Because her voice is laid back, and they told her, in my opinion, to lay back and don't use that nasal voice. And by bringing the pitch range down, she had a laid-back sound, and it's a distant sound then.
Well, Bush has a problem with that, too, though. His voice isn't the best either.
Bush is in the category with Ferraro and Mondale. All three of them have nasal voices. And the only voice that really carries the whole day in sound, the sound presentation, is Ronald Reagan. And he has two voices, one that he uses straight on when he's talking to you in extemporaneous speech, the way he did it. And he has that sound that carries all of us. And the other voice, when he's a little tired, he talks a little down here.
A quick, simple plan
basically, he sounds great.
For finding and using your natural dynamic voice by Dr. Morton Cooper. It is called Change Your Voice, Change Your Life. And we thank you very much for being with us. If you want more information on the subject, call area 213-208-6047.
Thank you very much. And next we're going to see...